James Charles has been accused of grooming and sending nude images to an underage fan. This kid Isaiyah posted a series of TikToks and has also posted onto his Twitter trying to explain his situation with James Charles. So it starts here where Isaiyah posted this tweet. He had also posted this, as I said, as a TikTok originally. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Okay, so trigger warning. I will be talking about grooming and James Charles. So if you get triggered by any of those, keep scrolling. But if not, watch this video, please. So last Wednesday on the 17th, James Charles snapped me on Snapchat. He added me back because I had snapped him a while ago, just like a fan to influencer conversation. I was excited because he's my biggest influencer-wise, and I've always looked up to him, so I was excited to get his message back. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna post proof of it right now. This is the notification that I got when he Snapchatted me first. And just for further proof, he deleted the chat. I don't know what he deleted, but that's me opening his Snapchat. I went into the bathroom, and I guess he saw the bathroom light, so he started making the conversation very sexual, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I'll post some of the stuff that he sent me now. You can't see it because it's blurry, because I took it on my iPad, because I didn't want him to see that I screenshotted it, but I'll post it right now. He proceeded to send me explicit pictures of his body. More in part 2.
And so now we're going to check part 2 to see the rest of what he has to say.
So this is part 2 of the James Charles story. So after sending me that first picture of his body, explicitly, he sent me multiple after that, and I'll post them now. I was getting really uncomfortable, so I told him my age. I told him I'm 16. Meanwhile, he's 21. He's a grown man. And then he proceeds to say, oh, but I didn't even get to see meaning my body. And after telling him, like, no, like, I'm not gonna send it to you, he kept on asking for pictures and videos of body hair and me flexing and stuff. He proceeded to ask to FaceTime me, which I then said no to, and then I asked why. And this is what he said. It's sad to say that I can't even look up at my biggest influence the same again. I've heard multiple stories about him doing this to people, but you never believe it until it happens to you. So now I'm a big believer of what James Charles does to other people, and it sucks because he has so much going for him, and he does this to himself. All I ask from TikTok is to try to boost this video as much.
So basically Isaiyah is claiming that months back or however long ago he had sent James Charles a message on Snapchat. To his surprise, recently James Charles responded to his message on Snapchat. He says that James started sending him nude images and flirting almost right away. Isaiyah claims that he then made James aware that he was not 18 and in fact was 16. He claims that James responded to that by saying, but you haven't actually seen the D yet. Which, if true, clearly means that James Charles was ignoring the fact that this was a minor and continued anyway. Emphasis on the if this is true. Isaiyah then posted this other tweet later on where he said, I had to screen record it from my notes because it wasn't sending on here. Here's me in real time opening a snap. Just watch you show off and look hot as F, haha. So this is a video of him opening a Snapchat that he received from James. So as you can see there, he definitely did receive this message. Isaiyah has received a lot of doubters over this, and we'll get to that in a moment, but he has posted this other tweet saying, for those who don't believe the age thing, this was me messaging my BSF, who I told at the time about it. He was asking for me to send pictures of my body right after me telling him I'm 16. Hope this clears things up. So in this video, he's just scrolling down a text message conversation that he had with his friend. Personally, I'm not sure if this means very much at all. I mean, obviously it does confirm that he was talking about this with someone, with a friend, prior to coming forth with these allegations. He does claim here as well, you can see, yeah, I'll see, because now he's talking about wishing I was of age so he could date me. So if this is true, then maybe it would lend credence to Isaiyah's story here about James. But there is, again, no way to actually confirm this is what happened. So at the moment, this is just all hearsay. Anyway, just an hour before I started recording this video, James Charles has posted a response trying to explain this situation on his Twitter account. So let's have a look and read it. His statement. He says, trigger warning, grooming and pedophilia. There's a video going around about me on TikTok and Twitter of a guy calling me a groomer, and I want to address it right away. The accusation that I have groomed this person is completely false. Last week, I came across someone on my Instagram Explore page, saw he followed me and added him on Snapchat. The next morning, I woke up to several snaps from this person. Being excited, I added him back, saying he loved me, and also lewd photos of himself in the shower. I asked how old he was right away, and he told me he was 18, so I started flirting back. In the excitement of meeting someone I thought could be potentially great, I didn't ask for a copy of his ID or passport. It's now clear, based on the video he uploaded, he was taking photos of me with another device, and had an ulterior motive from the beginning. Later in the day, he said a few things that made me question the validity of his original age answer, and when I asked him to confirm his age once again, he admitted he was 16. I told him I was very uncomfortable and apologised for flirting, but he insisted on continuing talking, saying it would be our little secret. He's a fan of mine and would never tell anyone. I told him I wasn't okay with this. He started getting upset, and at this point I unfriended him. We haven't spoken since. I'm not victim blaming him or victimizing myself either, simply sharing what happened, and what happened was not okay. After false allegations like this in the past, I would never knowingly engage with anyone underage and put my life on the line for a few Snapchats. Because of situations like this, instead of taking someone's word for it, I will now ask to see the ID or passport of every guy I have a conversation with. And now that's not quite where it's ended, because Isaiyah has responded to James Charles' statement there, saying, "James, we both know I blocked you. You never asked for my age. After I told you I was 16, you proceeded to ask me for nudes and said it didn't matter. You called me hot and said, I wish the timeline could speed up so you can be 18. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this screenshot here really proves, if anything. I mean, yeah, sure. This screenshot proves that he blocked James Charles, but what does that really mean? Why does it matter if he blocked James? Why does it matter if he blocked James? I mean, it doesn't matter at all in regards to this entire story. If he was lying, he could easily have gone in and just blocked James after the fact. It doesn't really mean anything at all. Also, I'm a little confused. Why does he have so many people blocked on Snapchat? Isaiyah has also just responded since I started making this video, and he's posted here saying, if you're going to text someone, make sure to know their age. He added me on my Instagram. My Instagram has my TikTok, which shows my age. And he's got a screenshot here of his Instagram, and here he's got a TikTok story button that you can click on. You don't actually see on his Instagram, there is no mention of the age here, but when you click on that TikTok thing, sure, it opens up a picture of his TikTok that does have the age there. So I think one thing for sure here that we can probably all agree on is, regardless of whether or not these accusations are true, James Charles certainly did not do very much looking into the person that he was speaking to. He didn't spend much time at all trying to be careful or anything of the sort. Now, as far as what I'm thinking here, or as far as what people in general are thinking, right? So there's two camps here. There's one camp of people who very much think that James Charles did this. They believe that Isaiyah is telling the truth. They stand behind Isaiyah 100%, and they think, okay, James Charles has been accused of similar things in the past. And so this is a repeat pattern of behavior. Maybe none of it's actually been proven in the past, but there is evidence here that James has been Snapchatting this person and all the rest of it. One such person that believes that James was in the wrong here is Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein has made a couple of tweets now in the last hour or so condemning James Charles, going as far as to call him an outright predator. But there is another camp, and the other camp is saying that there is no proof here, that James Charles has not been proven to have done anything wrong. A lot of people think that this entire thing from Isaiyah looks like a setup. They think it's very convenient that Isaiyah somehow just was recording James Charles saying X, Y, and Z, sending these pictures, doing all this stuff, yet somehow he doesn't have any sort of screenshot, he doesn't have any sort of recording of James Charles saying he didn't care about his age, of Isaiyah saying, I'm only 16. And to a lot of people, and probably me as well, to be honest, I think that's kind of fishy. I think it's a bit strange that he has all these other recordings and screenshots, all this other evidence of the interactions between them, yet for some reason we are missing any sort of evidence, we are missing the interaction where the age was concerned. I think that's kind of fishy, personally. However, that's not me saying that I don't think this happened. That's not me saying I don't believe anything Isaiyah's saying. Because I do believe that this is something that could have happened. If it did happen, honestly, it probably would not surprise me. We see stuff like this happening with influencers all over, all the time. We see people getting with their fans and all the rest of it. We see people going with minors or whoever else all the time. So if this was a thing that happened, it would disgust me, but it probably would not surprise me. However, I want to make it very clear, I don't think there's any evidence here that James Charles has done the things he's being accused of. Yes, undoubtedly, there has been a little thing going on here. James Charles has sent images to this person. They've been flirting back and forth. That happened 100%. And so maybe we can have a conversation here, because there are a lot of people, there is a frame of mind that think that influencers should not be entering into these sort of relationships with fans. They think there is a power imbalance. They think there's a horrible power dynamic here. And to an extent, I can completely understand that, and I've spoken about that in other situations before. I do think that there is something to that. Do I think that you should never be allowed to date a fan? Do I think you should never be allowed to interact in this way with anyone who follows you? I wouldn't go as far as to say that. However, I do think it is a very fine line. I do think it's a very grey area to try and judge when is it okay to date someone who is a fan of yours or who follows you, and when is it not? There are a lot of people out there that you can see are very taken aback by certain influencers. Some people who idolize certain influencers, people who are obsessed, those sorts of people. There are a lot of people out there who will take James Charles's every word and they will hang on every word that he says. People who idolize him. And you get it with all influencers. And those kind of people, you 100% should not be entering any sort of relationship with. Those people you hold a certain power over, and that I believe is wrong. However, there are people who simply follow someone on Twitter. They hear about, oh, I know who he is. I've seen 1 or 2 videos. Hit follow. Oh, I guess I'm a fan. I thought that video of his was okay. Those are people who are not idolizing you. Those are people who are maybe a little bit of a fan, but they're not idolizing you. They're not people who are infatuated with you. They're not people that you are holding some sort of power over. And so obviously I'm simplifying things a lot here. But my point is, I don't think that there is a one-stroke-fits-all explanation to that whole idea of the power dynamics and whether or not people should be allowed to date their fans. I don't think there is a one-word answer to that entire thing. I think, honestly, it comes down to case-by-case basis. It's a very tough thing to judge because not every situation is the same. Not every fan-creator relationship dynamic is the same either. As I said, you could have a relationship dynamic with one fan who is infatuated with you, whereas you might have another fan who simply watches your content once every month or something and knows who you are. Those are 2 entirely different dynamics. One is going to be very unhealthy and you could exploit that person, whereas the other example there, that's not quite as likely there. But what is clear here is that that is probably the one piece of evidence that we have for sure. We have that one piece of evidence that James Charles knowingly went with a fan. He knowingly flirted with a fan. That is the one indisputable piece of evidence we have here. He sent images and he flirted with a fan. No one's disputing that. James Charles himself admitted that in his own statement, and that is also what Isaiyah has claimed. The issue here, the point of contention, is in regards to whether or not James Charles knew the age of Isaiyah. Because if James Charles did know the age, if he knew the age was 16 from the get-go, like Isaiyah claimed, if James Charles knew he was 16, and after being told that he was 16, all said stuff like, "You've not even seen the D yet," if that's true, then James Charles is undoubtedly a predator. James Charles undoubtedly went after a minor. That is wrong, and he should be held accountable for that. However, we have no proof whatsoever to show that. And for that point, it is foolish for anyone to say 100% for sure that James is that thing, that he is that predator. There is no proof that he is preying on a minor. And now, as far as the accusation of grooming goes, even if James has sent these images to a minor, no, that's not grooming. This is not grooming. Would it be predatory? Yes. Would it be disgusting? Yes. But grooming, I don't think grooming quite fits. And to be honest, groomer is probably a much lesser charge than predator. And so as far as how I'm personally leaning on this story right now, I'm kind of this mind where I see, yeah, James certainly interacted with this person. As I've already said, he certainly was sending these images. So there is maybe a discussion to be had about that creator-fan dynamic, that power dynamic. There is maybe a conversation to be had there. But as far as James actually being a full-on predator, going after a minor, there is no proof there. And so a lot of this is just he said, she said. There is no proof on either side. And obviously you can't prove a negative. James Charles can't prove that he did ask for the age and then continued on only once he was told that this kid was 18. But Isaiyah also seemingly cannot prove that he said he was 16. When I see these tweets from Isaiyah, I see everything he's posting, I find it strange that he has evidence of so many images, so many different Snapchats sent to him by James, yet the one thing he doesn't have is the most damning thing. The one thing he doesn't have is the most important thing here. And it's the proof of the claim that James disregarded the fact that he said he was 16. There is no proof of that. And I find that a little bit fishy. But hey, maybe it's just a matter of circumstances. Maybe he just didn't manage to get that screenshot. Who knows? There is no proof either way. But what I do want to talk about finally, just in this video before I wrap up, I see a lot of people say stuff like this. That's understandable, however, I'd rather support a possible liar than a possible groomer, if that makes sense. And so this is something I see a lot about people saying, believe all victims, all the rest of it. And so they're saying, I'd rather support the liar than the groomer. And basically, what I don't get here is people constantly make it out, you have to be one or the other. If you're not believing the victim or the alleged victim, then that means you're believing the person who is being accused. Which means, for example, you are believing the liar or you are believing the groomer or the predator. And personally, I think that's just a really silly black and white way of looking at things. I don't think it has to be that way. There is not just two options here. There is a third option. There is a fourth option. It isn't as simple as, oh, you believe this person or you believe this person. And I think people mishandle these situations all the time. And this is my personal opinion. You guys can let me know what you're thinking in those comments down below. But I see people say, we have to believe people who speak up all the time. And I don't think you necessarily have to believe. I also don't think you necessarily have to believe the person defending themselves. What I think is important is to listen. I think it's important to listen and not reach judgment. I think it's important to listen and support. When someone like Isaiyah comes forth with some sort of accusation, I think it's important that we listen and we support them telling their story. However, that does not mean that at the same time as supporting him, we have to say James Charles is a predator. Let's all unfollow him. Let's cancel him now. He's terrible. I don't understand why people have to jump from one and go straight to the other. For me personally, I think, okay, we listen to Isaiyah. We support him saying what he has to say. And then I think we say, okay, now James, what do you have to say about this? And we listen as well to James, and we support as well James. I think it is possible to listen and support both sides at once. We do not have to listen to one side while demonizing the other, or vice versa. We don't have to listen to James and demonize Isaiyah, and we don't have to listen to Isaiyah and demonize James. We can listen to both of them without demonizing either of them. We can support both without demonizing either. And I think that is the way to go about it. For me personally, I think that is the way we should be conducting this sort of thing. We should be listening to both sides, hearing everything they both have to say, and not rushing to judgment. We should be waiting and waiting until all the facts are out there. And if the evidence conclusively shows, yes, James is guilty, or no, Isaiyah is actually a liar, then we should be making judgment. Then we should be saying, okay, now we no longer support whoever it was that came out to be the liar, came out to not be telling the truth. But at this point, at the start of these things, I think it is foolish to simply believe one side and not believe the other. I think we should be listening and we should be supporting. Belief is based on trust. And personally, I don't trust anyone online. I don't trust any of these people. I don't trust any influencer I see on Twitter. I don't trust these people. I don't know them. And I think it's foolish for anyone to trust a random person they have never spoken to before. Does that mean we should dismiss them? No, of course not. Does that mean we should silence them? Of course not. What I'm saying is we should listen to them, we should support them, but we should not necessarily say, okay, we believe every single person. You don't need to jump from support to belief in every single one of these circumstances, is all I'm saying. It is possible to support people who are going through this kind of thing, coming forth with their stories, without having to demonize the other person, without evidence. We don't have to demonize person B in order to support person A. And I really think that's something that everyone should consider. Anyway, folks, I'm going to start wrapping up here. Just one last thing. I'm sure there's going to be more tweets by the time this video is uploaded, but there's someone here who has said to Isaiyah, please contact the police, and he has said, I am. So we will see if anything comes from that. I'm not sure if it will or not, but I'm sure it will all come out shortly. As always, be sure to let me know what you're thinking about this entire situation in those comments down below. Do you believe Isaiyah? Do you believe James Charles? Do you believe neither of them? Again, the point I'm currently at is that I don't think there is any evidence to suggest that James went after a minor specifically. Yes, there is evidence that he went after a fan, so maybe it comes down again to the debate about, is it okay to be in a relationship with a fan? Is it okay to have that sort of sexual experience with them? I think that is probably where the debate really does lie here, because we do not have evidence that shows James went after a specific minor. Anyway, folks, let me know what you're thinking in those comments down below. Make sure to like or dislike the video, subscribe if you're new here, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next video.